Aliens tried to conquer us. Humans called it training. Part 1, The Day the Sky Opened. Please like and subscribe, and comment where you are watching from. The sky over Jakarta split open at 9:42 local time. Not metaphorically, literally. It shimmered like cracked glass, and through the rupture came thunderless fire. Hundreds of jagged black monoliths tore through the stratosphere, trailing green plasma, plunging into cities, oceans, forests, and deserts around the world. The invasion had begun. Everyone who was alive in 2069 remembered exactly where they were that day. For 19-year-old Lena Osborne, it was the rooftop gym of Fort McKinley, the hybrid military academy complex built to train the next generation of Earth's defense cadets. She'd just completed her third hour of close combat sparring and was wiping blood from her lip when the emergency siren screamed. Commander Rajiv burst through the stairwell, panting. "This is not a drill. Fall in. All personnel report to lower hangars, immediately." Lena didn't need to be told twice. She grabbed her Neuralink visor, slapped it onto her temple, and sprinted for the elevator shaft. The newsfeed flickered to life in her retina as she ran, alien vessels confirmed, multiple impact sites, casualty projections in the millions. Earth's global defense systems, designed more for deterrence than all-out war, were scrambling to respond. By the time Lena reached the hangars, half the cadets were already suited up. Mechs were being pulled from cryosleep. Combat drones hummed to life. It was chaos, but organized chaos, the kind only years of live combat simulations could produce. But none of their training had prepared them for what came next. The aliens didn't speak. Not with voices. Not with broadcasts. They appeared in the impact zones within hours, 9-foot-tall insectoid titans encased in adaptive biometal. Each one bore a symbol no one could decipher, and each moved with impossible precision. The first engagement occurred in Madrid. An elite unit of UN peacekeepers attempted to contain a monolith landing site. They were annihilated in under 4 minutes. In New York, the aliens tore through police barricades like paper. Civilians fled in all directions, screaming. Only when the North American Mech Corps deployed did the tide slow, but even then, just barely. The aliens moved like they'd been here before. They weren't just here to conquer. They were testing us. Within a week, Earth's governments had declared planetary martial law. Every major city was turned into a fortress. Every cadet, even the barely graduated ones like Lena, was assigned to active defense roles. Her first deployment was in the ruins of Manila, where Sector 17 had gone dark. The squad dropped in from orbit, a 9-person strike team led by Lieutenant Garza. The moment their boots hit rubble, they were surrounded. 3 aliens emerged from the smoke, massive, gleaming, and fast. They didn't use guns. Instead, they wielded adaptive plasma blades that morphed mid-strike, switching from scythe to shield in milliseconds. 2 of Lena's squad mates were dead within seconds. But Lena had always been different. In training, her instructors called her the simulator killer. She had a knack for patterns, for adapting mid-fight, for thinking like the enemy. And in that first real encounter, she tapped into something primal. She dodged the first alien strike by inches, rolled under a second swipe, and used her grav blade to sever its leg at the knee. It didn't scream, just hissed, dropped, and lunged again. Lena spun, drove her blade into its throat, and watched it sizzle from the inside out. Her visor flashed, target neutralized. DNA scan pending. Combat grade A+. The battle ended with 4 humans dead and 3 aliens disintegrated. Lena's squad limped back to their drop ship, breathing heavy, unsure whether they'd won or simply survived. Across the world, something strange began to happen. In every skirmish, humans fought back harder. Smarter. The more the aliens escalated, the more humanity adapted. Tactical AIs began absorbing data from fallen enemy tech. Neural implants began learning enemy movement in real time. Within a month, Earth was no longer losing. By the second month, we were winning, barely. The invaders never sent more than a few dozen warriors at a time, never unleashed orbital weapons, never attempted global bombardment. Their attacks were localized, personal, surgical. Someone at NASA finally said what everyone was thinking: they're holding back. The true answer came not from Earth's intelligence networks, but from a captured alien. In Tokyo, a team led by Dr. Naoko Isuri managed to down an alien with a sonic resonance pulse. Against protocol, they kept it alive. What they discovered shocked the scientific world. The aliens were called the Chiranth, a nomadic warrior race. Their neural matrix could interface with human thought through augmented dream space. Using a hybrid translator, the alien finally spoke, inside the mind of its interrogator. You are potential. Unshaped, wild, beautiful. We came not to destroy you. We came to forge you. At first, Earth's leaders dismissed it as disinformation. Then more Chiranth were captured. More neural interfaces. The same message, again and again. This is your trial. Rise, or be deemed unworthy. At Fort McKinley, Lena sat in the war room beside 2 generals and 5 AI strategists. A map of the world glowed before them, overlaid with impact zones and recent engagement data. The alien attacks were becoming more coordinated, but also more selective. They ignored civilians now. Only combatants were targeted. What does it mean? Lena asked. General Harkness grunted. It means they're grooming us. They're training us, added Commander Rajiv. Like a forge hammers steel. The room went silent. Then the AI spoke. Probability algorithm suggests 87% likelihood that the Chiranth invasion is not conquest, but selective augmentation. Survivors of this campaign will become something else. Lena leaned forward. What do they want us to become? The AI responded without hesitation. Worthy. Part 2, Trial by Fire. They came in waves now. Each drop was a challenge, not an extermination. The Chiranth were no longer testing Earth's defenses, they were testing individual humans. Each encounter seemed tailored, different terrain, different alien weapons, and different tactical patterns, like a cosmic exam crafted to probe weaknesses and trigger evolution. Lena Osborne became a central figure in this new paradigm. By week 10 of the invasion, she'd survived 17 separate engagements. More than half her original class was dead. Those who remained were different, sharper, more ruthless, as if the constant edge of death had filed them into weapons. But even Lena could feel the strain. In Berlin's frozen outskirts, she fought a Chiranth warrior in hand-to-hand combat for 23 minutes while her grav rifle lay in the snow, useless. The alien didn't speak, but it mirrored her every move, countering not with brute strength, but with discipline. It was learning her, just as she was learning it. She finally won by faking a knee collapse and slipping a plasma charge under its chin. As it disintegrated, it gave her a brief, unmistakable gesture, one fist to its chest, then raised outward. Salute. Back at Fort McKinley, scientists pored over alien tech, dissecting armor, decoding signal emissions, mapping genetic matrices. The Chiranth didn't leave corpses, they melted into ash and light. But occasionally, they dropped fragments, scraps of armor, energy cores, glyphs. One discovery shook the foundation of human understanding. Project Veilbreaker, a deep-dive linguistics initiative run out of a repurposed ISS module, cracked a recurring symbol found on nearly every alien artifact. Proving ground, Tier 1. Tier 1. The word suggested layers. Levels. And Earth, it seemed, was just the first step. The president of the Unified Earth Assembly summoned Lena personally, along with other elite cadets from surviving sectors. The meeting took place in a deep lunar bunker, shielded from both detection and sabotage. There were only 12 of them in total. You're not just fighters anymore, the president told them. Your candidates. The Chiranth aren't looking for slaves or subjects. They're looking for recruits. A general spoke next, his voice steady. If we pass their tests, we'll be part of something greater. If we fail, they'll move on. Maybe to Mars. Maybe to the next intelligent species. But this? This is our shot at becoming more. No one fully understood what more meant. But the implications were clear. Earth wasn't being conquered. It was being auditioned. Lena's next mission took her to Mumbai, now a blackened jungle of metal vines and melted skyscrapers. The alien monoliths had terraformed whole districts, converting steel and concrete into obsidian biostructures. The environment itself was hostile, warping sensors, jamming comms, altering gravity at will. She was partnered with Elian Park, a cybernetic infiltration specialist with a reputation for surviving impossible odds. Their mission: retrieve an alien memory core from deep inside a Chiranth crucible, one of their training arenas. From the moment they entered the structure, the world shifted. Floors twisted mid-step. Walls became windows into other battles happening across the world, glimpses of other humans fighting their own trials. Lena saw a child in Cairo take down a four-armed titan with nothing but a stolen pistol. She saw an elderly farmer in Bolivia disable a walker mech by collapsing a hilltop onto it with dynamite. Each image flickered for only a second, but it made something click. This wasn't a war. It was a lesson plan. Inside the crucible's heart, Lena and Elian found the core, a glowing orb of chitin and circuitry, pulsing with psychic static. As Lena touched it, the world dissolved around her. She was no longer in Mumbai. She was standing in a starless void. And before her stood a Chiranth, not as a towering warrior, but as a humanoid shape woven from light and thought. "You see it now," it said, without sound. "You are the future, if you survive the present." "Why us?" she asked. "Because you break your limits. Again and again." The vision ended. She awoke in the wreckage with the core clutched in her hand. Elian was unconscious beside her. Something had changed inside her mind, like a door had opened. And beyond it, whispers called her name. Project Ascension was formed the next day. Earth's best minds, soldiers, engineers, and philosophers gathered to prepare for the next phase of the trial. The alien tech was no longer feared, it was studied, integrated, used. Neural upgrades went from rare to standard. Grav weapons were manufactured in bunkers beneath Antarctica. Even gene hacking became permitted under international emergency protocol. And through it all, the message from the Chiranth became clearer. Survive the forge. Emerge not as prey, but as flame. Lena was at the center of it. By month 4, she had stopped thinking of the Chiranth as enemies. They were sparring partners. Brutal, relentless ones, but not evil. Their arrival had united humanity in ways no treaty or ideology ever had. Borders collapsed. Languages blurred. Earth had become one forge, with one purpose: to rise. The final test came without warning. 6 monoliths descended simultaneously around the world, in the Arctic, the Sahara, the Amazon, the Himalayas, the Pacific Trench, and in orbit. Lena was sent to the Himalayan crucible. What she found there wasn't a battlefield. It was a temple. Inside were no weapons. No warriors. Just a single glowing sphere, levitating in silence. As she approached, it unfolded like a lotus, revealing a seed of light. "You have passed," said the voice in her mind. "The trial ends." But it wasn't over. Not yet. The ground shook. Outside, the sky cracked again, this time, not with fire, but with stars. A Chiranth mothership descended. The size of a continent. A city of light and thought. A doorway opened at its base. Lena's visor flared, Exodus protocol initiated. Candidates, 12. Mission, Ascension. They weren't just survivors now. They were being invited. Part 3, The 12 Chosen. The world watched as 12 humans, warriors, scientists, strategists, ascended into the sky aboard a vessel made not of steel, but living light. Lena stood among them, her feet touching a floor that thrummed with ancient consciousness. No one spoke, yet everyone heard each other's thoughts through the Chironth interface. The ship wasn't piloted. It knew where to go. It existed half in space, half in something else, some folded dimension where thought and matter intertwined. Earth receded behind them, wrapped in auroras that pulsed like a heartbeat. The journey lasted 1 hour and 1,000 years. They arrived not at a location, but at a reality called the Forge of Becoming, a construct that orbited a dying white star at the center of the Chironth's domain. Surrounding it were other vessels, other species. Hundreds of them. Humans weren't the first to be invited. They were simply the latest. Aboard the forge, Lena walked beside beings that defied biology, crystalline serpents, liquid metal spheres, creatures of dust and fire. All had survived the trials of their own worlds. All had once been prey. All had now been worthy. The Chironth revealed themselves not as conquerors, but as curators. An ancient race of once flesh who had ascended into synthetic thought to preserve the spark of evolution across the stars. "We do not grow," said the Forge's AI chorus. "We refine others, so they may become what we can no longer imagine." Each chosen species had earned the right to undergo Phase 2, the Transcension Epoch. In simpler terms, to evolve past their limits, if they dared. The humans were not alone in their trials. They were paired with mentors, Chironth avatars tailored to their minds. Lena's took the form of a warrior cloaked in stormlight. He called himself Vexo, and he did not speak in riddles. "You are fast. Clever. Angry. But not complete." "I don't want to be complete," Lena replied. "I want to be better." "Good," said Vexo. "Then let us break you." And break her they did. The forge stripped away comfort. Sleep was replaced by lucid neural learning. Combat became abstract, fought in environments where physics bent and time reversed. Lena faced enemies pulled from her own mind, childhood fears, dead friends, failed simulations. She battled against versions of herself that had died in alternate timelines. She lost, again and again. But she learned. Adapted. Rose. So did the others. Elian Park began seeing the electromagnetic spectrum in full. Zara Menendez, a language prodigy, learned to communicate with non-physical beings. Captain Rahim of the Arctic Defense Network developed predictive combat reflexes based on quantum uncertainty. The human brain was no longer a fixed shape. It was clay in the Chironth's furnace. And Earth's champions were being molded into weapons for something far greater than survival. 2 Earth months passed aboard the forge, measured by the rotation of the white star they now called Kafel. Then the council assembled. Not a council of Chironth, but of the forged, those who had ascended and returned. Among them stood beings Lena had never imagined. A hive of insect queens who spoke as one, a war veteran from a race of 6-dimensional tacticians, a philosopher composed of sound. They welcomed the humans into their ranks with a question. "Do you wish to remain human?" The question was not rhetorical. The Transcension Epoch could strip away weakness, but also identity. To ascend fully meant leaving behind not just pain, but culture, history, even emotion. The humans debated long. Some argued to embrace it fully. Others hesitated, fearing what they'd lose. Lena was quiet. Then she stood and said, "Let us keep our scars. That's how we remember who we were." The council agreed. Humans would undergo the final phase on their own terms. With aid, but without control. They were to be sent back, not to rest, but to prepare Earth. Because the trials weren't a test for joining a club. They were boot camp for an impending war. The Chironth revealed the truth in fragments. There was another force in the galaxy. Something ancient, vast, and consuming. The Chironth called them the Hollow Wills, entities that devoured advanced civilizations not for conquest, but to erase them from the chain of evolution. Their goal was stasis. Entropy. They didn't just kill, they reversed progress. They had already silenced dozens of species. The Chironth had narrowly escaped by abandoning their flesh and going synthetic. But even that was a delay. Not a victory. The Hollow Wills were coming again. And Earth, volatile and vibrant, had been marked as a critical inflection point. If humanity could rise in time, it might tip the balance. If not, all would be lost. That was why the Chironth had come. Not to dominate Earth, but to forge it into a weapon. The humans returned to Earth 1 year after they left. But for them, it had been decades inside the Forge's time-folded realms. They were no longer cadets or soldiers. They were post-human initiates, hybrids of flesh, thought, and code. Lena Osborne landed in what had once been London. Now it was Fort Aegis, Earth's new planetary defense citadel. She stepped onto the landing platform and felt the collective gaze of Earth's armies, civilians, AIs, and orbital drones watching her. She wasn't a symbol anymore. She was the beginning of Phase 3. The enemy is coming, she told the United Earth Assembly. And this time, we're not the ones being tested. Part 4, Preparing the Blade. Lena Osborne could feel time itself trembling. Earth was no longer the fractured planet it had been when the Chironth arrived. What remained of its nations now operated as branches of the unified Earth Command. The Forgeborn 12, those returned from the Chironth Crucible, stood as living legends, and humanity's final chance. Each had been assigned a global sector, entrusted with reshaping human civilization into a defense lattice. Lena's was Europe and the North Atlantic. Her citadel stood atop the Alps, a fortress made of nanoglass and deep-core alloy, housing more than 1 million soldiers and engineers. But more importantly, it housed the initiation vaults, chambers designed to prepare others for post-human evolution. Her goal, not to lead an army, but to forge more like her. The Chironth had left behind more than knowledge. They had left technology that rewrote what biology could be. Gravitic cores, emotion mapping memory threads, neurosymbiotic crystals. And with it, the humans learned how to train evolution itself. The first batch of initiates arrived 2 weeks after Lena's return. Recruited from soldiers, scientists, hackers, artists, anyone who had shown a glimmer of transcendent thinking during the trials. Age, status, history, none of that mattered anymore. One of them, Danya Malik, had once been a mid-tier drone mechanic from Lagos. Within 48 hours in the vaults, she'd cracked the harmonic resonance algorithm in Chironth phase blade design, something the top Forge engineers hadn't accomplished in 10 years. Another, Tomas Jaeger, a paraplegic former sniper, bonded with an interface matrix that let him predict kinetic energy shifts 10 seconds ahead of real time. He became Earth's first true post-line of sight tactician. Lena trained them all. Pushed them hard. Harsher than even the Forge had been. "Don't ask for permission to survive," she shouted during a neural combat sim. "If you want to live through what's coming, tear the permission out of the universe's teeth." And they did. Earth's orbit changed. Literally. Using Chironth graviton injectors, the planet's satellites were replaced by a ring of weaponized sentinels, hundreds of autonomous defense arrays that orbited in layered formations. The Aegis mesh. Below that, Earth's crust was mined for trans-elemental materials. Oceans were seeded with anti-sensor kelp. Storms were induced in strategic patterns to scramble long-range scans. Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a fortress with a heartbeat. But it wasn't enough. Because then came the signal. On the edge of Saturn's orbit, the outermost lunar research base picked up an anomaly, a field of absolute silence, a void in space that ate radio signals, light, and even quantum echoes. It was the calling card of the Hollow Wills. They had entered the solar system. Aboard a station called Blackhold, Lena met with the Forgeborn 12 via psycholink. No words passed their lips. Their minds danced across ideas in seconds, exchanging data, forecasts, fears, tactics. "They're early," thought Zara. "They know we passed the first test," replied Rahim. "They're coming to erase the result." Veksho, Lena's Chiranth mentor, appeared in the shared space, now only a spectral echo. He no longer guided her. He observed. "You forged well," he said. "But now the blade must strike." Lena volunteered to lead the first contact deterrent wing, a unit designed not to attack, but to be seen. "To tell the Hollow Wills, we are not the species you thought we were." The fleet launched from orbit, 100 ships crewed by initiates and hybrid pilots. Their designs combined human grit with Chiranth elegance, battlecruisers with skin that healed, drones that fed on starlight, mechs that dreamed. Lena's flagship, the Tempest Reborn, was the spearhead. As they reached the shadowed edge of Neptune, they saw it, a shape in space that wasn't a shape. A region that seemed to collapse into itself, flickering in and out of dimensional sync. It wasn't a ship. It was a cancellation. The Hollow Wills didn't arrive with banners. They didn't issue demands. They simply expanded, like cancer without intent. But this time, the host body wasn't passive. The Tempest sent out a pulse, encoded not just with language, but defiance. The signal bore Earth's entire memory of the trials, the losses, the fights, the evolution. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the Hollow Wills responded. They attacked. But Earth's champions had been waiting. The battle didn't happen in a place. It happened across states of being. Across time folds. The Hollow Wills struck by inverting laws of motion, triggering entropy in pilot synapses, corrupting causality. Half the human fleet disintegrated in seconds. But the other half adapted. Lena's neural mesh flared to life. She moved faster than light, not physically, but perceptually, seeing futures fracture and choosing the path that kept her alive. She danced through the void's teeth, firing graviton shivs laced with quantum seeds. One of the wills cracked, bleeding not fluid, but meaning. A thought that died screaming. Her second-in-command, Malik, sacrificed her ship to create a rupture in the entropy field, letting the Tempest launch its payload, a truth bomb encoded with all of human history, from the first fire to the forge. The Hollow Wills recoiled. Not because they feared the data. But because they couldn't unwrite it. Humanity, it turned out, had something the Wills had never prepared for. A story. The void collapsed. Lena's ship limped home. Only 30% of the fleet survived. But the message had been sent: we are not prey. We are not passive. We are not yours. And for the first time in millennia, the Hollow Wills withdrew. Not defeated. But interrupted. Back on Earth, billions watched as Lena's cracked, half-burning ship descended over New Geneva. She stepped out with one phrase broadcast to all corners of the planet. Training's over. Part 5, A Species Reforged. Earth did not return to peace. Peace was no longer the goal. After the Battle of Neptune, the Hollow Wills vanished, but no one believed they were gone for good. Across the solar system, sensor webs hummed, satellites blinked with vigilance, and human minds, augmented and fused with Chiranth constructs, never truly slept. But something fundamental had shifted. Humanity had not just survived an extinction-level encounter. It had grown into something else. And the rest of the galaxy had taken notice. It began with contact requests, not from the Chiranth, who now remained aloof in their forge of becoming, but from others. Civilizations once hidden, watching. Some had failed the trial centuries ago and retreated. Others had passed, but chosen to remain isolated. All of them now reached out. Because humans had done the unthinkable. They had fought the instructors themselves. They had challenged the wills and lived. And they had kept their souls intact. In the city of Luna Selam, carved into the Sea of Tranquility, ambassadors from 13 species walked beneath human skies for the first time. Some shimmered like heat mirages. Some clicked and crawled. Others pulsed with light. All of them came with one message. Teach us what you became. The Forge-born 12 became not just leaders, but mentors. For the first time, Earth was no longer the student. It was the Forge. Lena Osborne never returned to her alpine citadel. Instead, she wandered, from vault to vault, continent to continent. Sometimes alone, sometimes with initiates. She taught not with speeches but with pressure, challenges, trials, relentless progression. She became a myth, then a movement. Across the world, those who adapted began calling themselves the Forged-born. Not defined by birth, but by choice. They were not a caste. Not elite. Only those willing to walk through fire and keep walking were considered part of the new order. Lena visited one such Forged-born camp in the ruins of Old Santiago. A 12-year-old girl named Mira stopped her at the gates. "Are you the one who broke the wills?" she asked. Lena knelt, met her eyes. "No. I'm the one who taught them we break back." Mira blinked, then smiled. "I want to break back too." In the orbit of Jupiter, a new forge was built. Not a copy of the Chironth construct, but something human. Raw, scarred, jagged, a place where gravity itself could be turned into a training field, where timelines could be fast-tracked through simulation pods, where children could become war philosophers by 18. They called it Threshold. It became Earth's beacon. A symbol. And when the next anomaly appeared, far beyond Pluto, pulsing with hollow entropy, Threshold launched a fleet without hesitation. Not to fight. To warn. To say, "We see you." Lena's final act wasn't in battle. It was in silence. On the 10th anniversary of the trial's end, she stood atop the original Chironth monolith that had fallen into the Sahara. Now it had been hollowed, transformed into a living museum of the Forge War. She addressed no cameras. No press. Only initiates. "You are not here to be better than others," she said. "You are here to be better than yourself, yesterday, every day." She pointed upward. "They tried to conquer us. They thought we would break. They thought we'd surrender." A pause. Her eyes burned like twin novas. "But humans don't surrender. We level up." Later that night, as she sat beneath a sky full of forged stars, a voice reached her mind, old, familiar. "You have done well. Vexo. You are still watching?" she asked. "Always. But now, we are learning from you." She smiled. "You should have known how this would end," she replied. "You dropped gods into a species addicted to struggle. What did you think was going to happen?" There was no answer. Just distant laughter. The trials were over. But the training never ended. Because across the dark, beyond known stars, more hollow wills stirred. And now, when they came, they would find a planet forged in pressure, purpose, and fire. Not a species waiting to be erased. But one waiting to test its new strength. Epilogue, Earth, year 2097. A child on Mars reads the old history books. "Aliens tried to conquer us," she asks her mother. "No," the mother says, brushing dust from her child's synth fabric sleeve. "They just didn't understand yet." "Understand what?" The mother smiles. "That for humans, every challenge is just training." The end.